Hello guys, my name is Func Action and today we're going to talk about the func and the action in the C#. Let's go to see that with an example. I have a console app and I have a person class with an ID, a first name and last name, and we can initialize that person through its constructor. Now in my program.cs I have my main method and I have a print person method that takes a person and it just prints in the console the first name and the last name. So I can say var person equals with new person, and I'll just need to pass a new GUID, a first name, let's put Spiros, and the last name, let's say Katsios. Okay, and now I can call this print method, so I can say print person and pass that person. So if I run that, we will see in the console Spiros Katsios. Okay, now we assign this person to a variable so that the variable person points to the person we just created. And in the same way we can have a variable that points to a method. So I can say, for example, var print person equals with the print person method without the parentheses, and now we have, as my ID suggests, an action of person. So instead of a variable we can use the type so we can see that. So I'll say action of person. So now that print person variable points to that print person method. An action should always point to a void method, and in the generic arguments we need to have the types that method accepts as parameters. So for example, if instead of only a person I had let's say int number, now as you can see that complains because we need to add the int in here. So now we can assign to that print person action methods that return a void, and they accept as parameters a person and an integer. Let's remove those. Now actions, as we said, only work with methods that don't return anything. What if we want a variable to point to a method that returns something? So let's go and have here a private static person, and let's call that create person, and we will accept the first name, a last name. Let me fix those. And we will return a new person, and we will have a new GUID, the first name and the last name. So let's use the var keyword and let's see in what it translates. So I'll say var create person equals with the create person method without the parentheses, and now as you can see it's a func, and the generic parameters is string and the person. So let's have it in here. So it's a func of string and person. Now as you probably can tell, in the generics we need to pass first all the variables that the method accepts, and the final one should be the return type. So in here we return a person and we take two parameters, the first name and the last name, and they are both strings, so it's a func of string and person. If we had again an integer in here, so int a, we should put that after the first two strings. So I would say int, and now that would compile. Okay, so now our print person variable points to the print person method, and the create person variable, which is a func, points to the create person method. So let's try that to see if it works. Let's remove that. Let's have the person to be instantiated by calling our func. So let's say var person equals with create person, but the func we will not call the method directly, so we'll say create person, and now we can just pass arguments like if it was a method, and I'll say Spiros, then Katsios, and that will return a person. And now let's print that person. So again I'll say print person, and I will pass a person, and let's see if that works. And as you can see, Spiros Katsios, it printed both times because I forgot to remove that calling here, but everything works as expected. So you can think of action like a variable that points to a method with a void return type, and when you have a func, you can think about it as a variable that points to a method that returns something, and the generic arguments in the action is the parameters that the method accepting, and the generic parameters in the func, it's first the parameters that the method accepts, and finally the return type. So let's try something else here. Let's try to pass to another method the func and an action. So I will create a new class, I will call that person service, and I will have a public person create, and we will have a first name and a last name, so string first name, string last name. And now we don't want to have the logic of creating a person in that method for some reason, so we will need to pass the logic of creating a person. So I'm going to say func of string because we have the first name and the last name, and finally the return type person, and let's call that create func. And now all I need to say is return and invoke that func, so create func, and pass the first name and the last name. And now let's do the same for printing a person, so public void print, and we will have a person and an action of person, so action person, let's call that print action. And now we need to invoke that action, so print action, and pass the person. Let's see if that works. So let's remove all those. Let's see, initialize our service, so var person service equals with new person service. Okay, let's create our person, so var person equals with person service dot create, and we need to pass a first name, so again Spiros, a last name Katsios, and finally the func, and that will be the create person. So now we have our person, and let's print it. So person service dot print, and we need to pass the person that we just created, and the action to print that person, so that will be the print person. Let's see if that works. And it works. And working with funcs and actions, it's something that you maybe do when you register some packages or do other actions involving external libraries, but you do it using Lamdas. So let's do the same here. For that print person, we don't need to have a method for that. We can just use Lambda. So we'll say that we have a person, and we need to print the first name and the last name by calling the console.writeLine method. And as you can see, that works, and let me new line that so you can see it better. And maybe that's something you are more used to, but this is the exact same thing that we had before, but now we're using a lambda instead of passing the method itself. So if I run that, it will work again as expected. And now if you were confused or didn't know what an action or a func is, I hope that you understand them a little better now. If you do, or you already knew but you like this video, please like and subscribe. Thank you for watching and have a nice one.